you. I've addressed the board with some correspondence with regard to the Newbury channel, but I thought it was important to address the audience as well as our viewers, acknowledging the fact that we did have some technical issues last week. Tuesdays were related to the modem and to the internet connection. Why that's important is we are still actually connecting from Kent Way over to 25 High Road. So if something goes wrong with the modem and or the internet connection, we don't have anything to broadcast. So that's what happened on Tuesday. That has been addressed and fixed. Modem has been replaced. Settings all resolved and all working. Wednesday, we had a combination of power-related issues. The power went off here a couple of times. Wednesday afternoon, as well as some learning curve issues with some staff that we have on board. We have brought in a replacement for our choir individual who started last Monday. We've had a contractor in, filling in, doing some of the recordings. They don't know everything. There are some learning curves, and that's what happened on Wednesday of last week. So I do acknowledge that. I try and keep close tabs on it, but I did want to bring that to the board, to the audience, and to the viewers' attention. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Thanks for hanging around.
Sure.
Okay, up next, Mr. Volpone.
Yes. I'm Mike Volpone, 162 Orchard Street in Byfield. I'm also the chair of the Recreation Committee. We have completed, after almost a year of work, the policy procedure manual for the Central Street Fieldhouse at Manta Field. It's been approved by, or reviewed by council. We're looking for your approval so we can start renting this place out and start doing things with it. Just a quick note, for priority status for reserving the field house, Newbury residents for nonprofit use are first, seasonal permit holders second, which are the people that are currently using it, such as the youth programs that are there. Triton Regional School District organizations and clubs, established Friends of the Town of Newbury, organizations such as the Newbury Town Library, Friends of the Council of Aging, Triton Youth Sports, and then any others. So we've got precedence to make sure that the Newbury residents are first, and then other groups that are going behind them. So we want to make sure we are making space available for everybody. If you guys have any questions regarding to it, again, it was a process that we have gone through painstakingly to make sure that we are taking everybody's needs into consideration. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to conditionally approve this. I was working all day and didn't see that it was going to be on the revised agenda. So if we have any edits or changes, we can discuss it at our meeting in May.
We're time, but we have time sensitive on this one, right?
Yeah, so if we conditionally approve it, they can start using it, but we can still make some edits in the future.
We have our certificate of occupancy, so we're, this is the only thing that's kind of holding up right now.
So that's why I'd like to approve it, and then if we have any further comments, we'll make them in May.
Okay, but so that won't prohibit any.
No, we'll be ready to go as soon as you guys
Yeah,
say
this
yes.
has already gone
But if
through
you do
town.
have questions, I have no problems, because we have to come back at the next meeting anyway to talk about a couple other things you guys will have in front of you.
There's going to be
So, yeah.
Okay.
scheduled.
So I move we conditionally approve the policy manual for Central Street Fieldhouse.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
And
All right.
conditionally, you had that word on the back of that.
Yeah, conditionally approved.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for hanging around.
Appreciate it.
Okay, Chairman's report. I signed the PI 19-19 for Alan Jameson, the PI 19-20 for the Board of Selectmen, and E. Jameson. I also signed the BW 19-20 Verizon wireless monthly iPad expense for the Board of Selectmen. Grants, gifts, and donations. We did receive an offer of a gift from Mr. Mike Hathaway, very nice gentleman that lives on Green Street, also an arborist and a landscape designer. Before we decide on that, I would like to hold that because later on I'd like to have a little discussion about basically the needs at the green. You know, how do we want to go about it? We've already experienced some of the pitfalls and that kind of go along with trying to make improvements to the green, and hopefully if we have another go at it we can do a little better. But so I'm going to hold Mike's letter until later
this evening?
for discussion, yes. Now we have a request for public property use special permit, Newbury Choral Society, banner on the upper green backstop, Friday, April 19th, 2019 through Monday, May 6th, 2019, to advertise the NCS Spring Concert, Saturday, May 4th and Sunday, May 5th, 2019. Is this the one you're involved in, Martha?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
You wanna talk about it?
Oh, you wanna say anything about it?
Sure, if you
What
want
are
me
you,
to.
what are you
Sorry.
singing this year?
Actually doing, it's an interesting program. It's all sort of American stuff. We're doing the Chichester songs by Bernstein, which we're actually singing in Hebrew, which will be interesting. Some songs by Copeland and some songs by a new composer. He actually composed one of the songs we did at Christmas time. And he's our composer in residence, Andrew Maxfield. And they're based on the poems of Wendell Berry. So
Excellent.
it's a spring concert in Bristol, correct? It's in Newburyport Choral Society.
Right,
so.
I've heard it's a pretty good take too.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for that. Do we have a motion to, did we have a
Yeah,
motion?
we have a motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Request for public property use special permits, Alzheimer's Association of Massachusetts, New Hampshire chapter, Ride Alzheimer's Cycling Fundraiser, Saturday, June 22nd, 2019, from 8 AM to 10:30 AM. 100-mile portion to pass through Newbury.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, would you like to say anything about the event?
Sure, yeah, so it's Saturday, June 22nd. We offer 3 different distances for our cyclists. Like you mentioned, only the 100-mile goes through Newbury. It's very low impact on the town of Newbury. We don't require any road closures or police details. All our cyclists are briefed on safety and the rules of the road. This year we're expecting about 400 cyclists. For this portion of the route, it'll only be about 70 cyclists. This is our 23rd annual ride, and we have raised $6.4 million for Alzheimer's research.
Good for you.
Great.
Yes, thank you.
You don't have any paint that's gonna go on the roads, right?
No.
We've had problems with folks spray painting arrows and different things.
Oh
on
yeah,
our-
I've heard horror
on our
stories.
new streets. All right, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you very much.
And waiting. One-day liquor license, Long Way Home, 8th Annual Rubbish to Runway Refashion Show, Governor's Academy, Saturday, April 27th, 2019, 5:30 PM to 9:30 PM.
Motion to approve.
Is there a
Second.
Any discussion?
It's the-
Anyone here from the event? Okay, seeing nobody, all those in favor?
Aye.
You missed one, request for public property use Steve Brown.
Yeah, all right, we're gonna back up here. Request for public property use special permit, Steve Fram, Byfield Community Arts Center, 12th Annual Byfield Automotive Cruise Night, Central Street, between Lunt and Main Streets, Friday, June 21st, 2019, from 3 PM to dusk.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, it's a really, really great event. It draws awful lot of people there. Kids love it. Everybody, old folks love it, so it's a really, really good deal.
Okay,
Come show up.
Last year we had an issue with the insurance, we had a waiver, it's the same thing this year.
yeah, I believe they're asking for a waiver. Is that something we need to vote officially on now? Okay.
Vote to make people sign waivers.
We haven't done that.
I'm sure. So the waivers first.
Okay.
No, no.
Oh, no, we can vote on
Let's
this.
vote on this.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Now, the insurance, they're requesting a waiver, as I understand.
They are requesting a waiver, and there's a form that each participant, there's a waiver, there's a form that each participant has to sign, and Steve is aware of that.
Okay, as
He did it last year.
the participants enter, they sign the release. Okay, perfect. Is there a motion?
I move that we provide Steve Graham with the releases necessary from our insurance company.
Sorry.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks for catching that, Chuck. One-day liquor license, Mercury Viewing. I'm gonna recuse from the Spencer Pierce Little Farm events.
Okay. I'm gonna read the first one and then just go through all the dates. Thank you, Jeff.
Well orchestrated.
One-day liquor license, Mercury Brewing and Distribution Company, Inc., Vintage Baseball Games, Byfield Little League Day, Spencer Pierce Little Farm, 2 Little's Lane, Saturday, May 4th, 2019, 10 PM to 3 PM. Saturday, June 1st, 2019, from 12 PM to 3 PM. Saturday, June 8th, 2019, from 11 AM to 5 PM. Sunday, June 9th, 2019, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Sunday, June 16th, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Sunday, June 30th, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Saturday, July 13th, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Sunday, June 14th, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Sunday, July 21st, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Sunday, July 28th, 2019, from 12 to 3 p.m. Saturday, August 10th, 2019, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. August 17th, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Saturday, August 24th, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Sunday, August 25th, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Saturday, September 7th, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m.
6 p.m.
6 p.m., sorry. Thank you for catching that.
Motion to approve all.
Second.
Any discussion? Is anyone here from them? All right. Would you like to come up and say anything about it? Sure.
For most of those days are for the Spencer Pierce Little Farms vintage baseball games where it's old school rules, no gloves, things like that. We pour $6, 16-ounce pours. Yeah. We're doing the Harvest Fest as well, so we have live music. Be a good time.
That sounds like
Sounds like
fun
good
events.
We try.
Thanks.
All right, anytime, thank you.
Thank you.
Before he leaves, could I just ask, the first one, May 4th, you said 10 p.m., was it 10 a.m.?
Thank God.
Yes, that's a typo,
Thank you.
10 a.m. Thank you for catching that. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Renew, approve, and sign 2019 business license renewal as follows. Jasmine Lewin, Paul Rooney, Brad DeLibero, Kim Sue DeLibero, DBA Bob Lobster, 49 Plum Island Turnpike, common victualler.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Michael Morris, Schneller BMW Performance, 26 Middle Road, Unit 1, General Business Automotive.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Yeah.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm gonna abstain from the next vote because it is my business license.
J.R. Colby and Elizabeth Knight, Common Pasture LLC, DBA Colby Farms, 50 Scotland Road, Retail Foods, Common Vitular, and Crafts and Gifts.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Review, approve, and sign 2019 new business license as follows. Caleb Noble, DBA St. Louis Cider LLC, 41 Rear Parker Street, General Business Hard Cider Production.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
You wanna say anything about your new business?
No, I'm excited. We've been in business 2 years, in Raleigh at Mill River Winery. And we actually started at Ipswich Brewery, but, we're looking to get our own space and turn up a notch. So, we're looking forward to coming to Newbury, so,
Good luck.
yeah,
That's
thanks.
awesome.
Very glad to have you
Good
here.
job, Caleb.
So you just can't get away from it?
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
I worked here for 6 years and I started business here. So,
All right.
Good
We're a
boy.
great town.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks,
Good luck.
guys.
Good luck with
Good
it.
luck.
Good luck to you.
Thanks.
We have review and approve commercial clam permit application. Just give me, this is for Mr. Scott Gorski Jr., 6 Rogers Lane, Byfield, Mass.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Any discussion?
Is this late?
It is late,
Yeah.
but the Fish Commission reviewed
You
it.
reviewed it? Okay.
Any other discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have an appointment, Patricia Keys, 38 Parker Street, to the Board of Registers, 3 years, April 9th, 2019 through 3/31/2022.
Motion to approve. Second?
Any discussion? I just want to say Patty Keys, very nice woman, engaged in the community and appreciative of her service.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, now we have the MVP Action Grant application. So, oh, thank you, Martha.
That's me. So we were, as you all know, we were designated a municipal vulnerability community last year. We went through the process, and we actually have a couple of action grants that are being done now. There's a grant round that's open now that closes next Friday, April 19th. And originally we were going to try to get this in for next Friday, which is why I wanted to get on this agenda. Given the time frame, probably we're going to be looking at a summer round instead, but I thought I would at least present the idea to you all and see if you would support it. I don't think, given the schedule now, that we need any action from you tonight, but I
Okay.
can at least discuss it if that's okay.
Thank you.
And this is just a draft scope. So we started, this would be done, basically, Newbury would be the lead. There might be some input from Newburyport. We're still discussing that right now, but it would be focused on Plum Island, which was identified by both communities through their MVP process as being, you know, obviously highly vulnerable, and some forward thinking needs to be done. So the action grant, as the title says, is identifying the societal costs and benefits of public services to Plum Island to empower effective planning in the face of climate change. And how this really developed, we started looking at possibly doing a study of different options for maintaining access to Plum Island in the future with sea level rise and so on. And as we discussed it, it became clear that we really needed to understand what the issues are first before we start talking about solutions. So this would be a grant in which Horsley Witten would take the lead with some other potential partners, an economic analysis firm, maybe some public policy people, really looking at the cost-benefit analysis of providing services to the island over time, trying to extend, you know, the life of the island and residency out there for as long as possible, and trying to take a look at, you know, is there a point at which that really no longer becomes viable? Our feeling is that it's something that really could benefit not only us, but perhaps be cutting edge for other coastal communities, because nobody else seems to have done this work. They've done bits and pieces of it. But this would be looking at a lot of hard data and sort of coming up with a long-term, sort of short-term and long-term plans, and then some future grant rounds might, you know, spring off of that over time. We're looking at potentially, with the consultants, possibly a total project cost of $200,000. That needs to be determined once we actually get a team together. And Horsley Witten would take the lead in helping, you know, identify people. We've brainstormed on a few thoughts there. The action grant proposal would be $150,000. We are required to provide a 25% match, which can be in kind, so staff time, volunteer time. If Newburyport, some of their MVP volunteers could help us out, or staff time from Newburyport providing information to us. But the match would be a value of $50,000, which doesn't have to be cash, but could be in kind. So I wanted to talk to you to find out whether, you know, in abstract you would support a project of this type, and I don't know if it would be appropriate to ask you to authorize, if you do, authorize Tracy to actually sign the grant application when the time comes. Again, I think we're not looking at this grant round, we're looking at the summer one, and we don't know exactly when that's gonna come out. It will still be based on fiscal year funding, so depending on when it's issued and when the applications are actually due, we could be looking at a 6-month to 9-month time frame to get the work done, but we think that that's feasible.
Martha, go ahead. No, go ahead, no, right after you.
Is there any advantage in, it's too late, you said it's too late to get this in for Friday, there's no advantage to trying to push it forward now in case the grant isn't awarded, that you can then apply again in the summer with a revised grant?
Yeah, I think given the fact that we really need to pull a team together and get a more defined scope and schedule and budget, it would be very difficult to do it now. You know, we've had a lot of back and forth about that. Our original hope was, I think what happened was the The ground round, it actually opened up a couple of weeks later than they had intended, but they didn't change the end date. So my understanding is a lot of other communities are kind of in the same position we are, trying to, to get something done, and it's just a very tight time frame. The advantage of doing the summer one is that we can actually have some discussions ahead of time to get some input on whether it's felt that this would be a good proposal to go forward with.
Well, if everyone else is in bad shape, get more money.
Martha, I read this quickly, and I think one thing as, a new group, a new committee, a new group of people looking at the mechanics and the, happenings that have occurred on Plum Island, that somehow incorporated in your prospectus, I think it has to be relevant that you really look at the work that the MRBA has done.
Yeah,
You really look at Duncan Fitzgerald and Chris Hines.
Yeah.
That you do all of the Woods Hole sand studies that have been all done on the, because coming in blind and not understanding all that scientific work, which is, it's big, you're gonna have to take some time.
Yeah, no,
And
absolutely.
even if you have to hire, set aside some of that money in the grant to hire Duncan for a little while or someone else, because there's a lot of work that's been done on Plum Island.
No, and that's excellent. We've talked about some of it, but we haven't identified everything that you've mentioned. But the idea would be to pull on all the work that has been done, the Woods Hole work and the Great Marsh Adaptation
Yeah,
Plan.
from Chris Hines to Woods Hole to Duncan Fitzgerald, there's been an awful lot of work on that Plum Island.
Absolutely. The idea is not to reinvent the wheel here, but to use all the work that's been done to really be able to understand what the issues are, then be able to kind of look at the costs of providing services, the benefits.
And it's funny, you're gonna read the conclusions or summaries of a lot of those studies, and they're not gonna be really relevant to what you're looking at, so you're gonna have to initiate some contact with those scientists.
Right, but I think a lot of the data that they have will be
Yeah.
quite relevant in this.
Right.
So is the proposed project will identify the societal costs and benefits that both communities will need to understand and consider in order to evaluate management options for Plum Island. So, like, the goal, what would be the goal of coming out of this? It would be for a better management plan, or?
And I think to really determine what the options are going forward. I mean, right, we've got issues right now when the high tide comes in and we can't get emergency vehicles out to, out to the island, or the school buses can't get across. And those issues will be, intensified as time goes by.
And so this is gonna look at, are you gonna get options, do you think you're gonna get options out of this, or is this just like fish or cut bait?
I think the hope is to get options out of it, but we won't, in some ways, we won't really know until we get to the end
Okay.
and really analyze the data and get,
Hopefully gather a better understanding of
Right.
why things happen the way they do out there.
right, and what the, and really what the issues are, and once we understand those better, what the costs will be over time, what the benefits are short term of, keeping things going.
And Martha, it's kind of funny, and this is a little bit selfish, but not only from that scientific backdrop, and then so much so with the urban planning aspect and all the mechanics of which you're gonna be looking into, somewhere within that, there's a political component that's been arduous for Plum Island, and even though it's a buried beach and all that, but, DEP and the regulators, it's gonna reach a point sometime in some places that, there might be certain things that you get into in that document that, we might, petition DEP to go forward and okay some of these things in advance, because coastal zone management and DEP could stop you right in your tracks and you wouldn't know it's heading in front of you anyway. So,
And those are some of the things that we talked about, regulatory hurdles and things like that, so.
regulatory is more than, it's big road.
Yeah. So, at this point, I don't know whether you would wanna, potentially express some support or just wait until we get this flushed out better for the next grant round.
I think it's, I move that we authorize Tracy to sign the grant when it's completed, the grant proposal when it's completed.
It's the MVP grant, but we're gonna go for this summer now, not this one.
Second, I second.
Discussion?
Well, I'd like to wait until it gets a little bit further, because do you think it may change a little bit after you meet with people and?
Might refine the scope somewhat, but I think this is pretty solid in terms of what we're actually looking at doing.
And you don't think this will happen until next year?
No, it'd be in the summer, it'd be the summer grant round.
It'll be the summer.
Right, so it'll still be fiscal year
Okay.
20 funding.
Okay. I thought we were gonna be a year.
No, I'm not quite sure. We haven't been able to get a date when that grant round is gonna open up.
And who's the, so right now you're working with Horsley Witten?
Yeah, we're working with Ellie Baker from Horsey Witten, who's actually our MVP provider. She led us through the process. And
Who else is working with you?
so Kristen Grubbs is working with us as well.
From MVP,
Well, no, she's a Twitch River
Yeah, sorry.
Watershed
Okay.
Association and planning board member, so she's wearing a bunch of hats. And we have kind of a small subgroup. Doug is involved, John O'Connell. And then have had some people from the Newburyport Vulnerability Committee, David Chatsworth and Mike Morris.
Okay.
And Julia Gottfriedson joined us in our first discussion about it.
We're actually a lot further along than I thought we would be at this time in really reviewing and trying to clarify what it would take to get a regional dredge. And that would be for probably 6 or 7 regional towns to actually purchase a dredge. So that would be incorporated in your forward planning,
And that's moving forward, that project, isn't it?
way forward.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still got time, it's still got a lot of time ahead of us, but, so, there's a lot going on now that, as you push forward on this, you're gonna have to incorporate a lot of that in your,
And then what about Baker's Coastal Resiliency? That's something.
that's money, that's money,
That's just money?
yeah. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? We got a motion on the floor.
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
No,
You
yeah,
second.
that's what I thought, yeah.
Okay, any other discussion?
Oh.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Martha.
Thank you.
We have letters of support for Triton Regional School District regarding education funding. Narissa Wallen, Chairman of the School Committee, requested of the 3 towns that we sign a letter of support asking the state for more money for our regional school system. Raleigh and Salisbury have agreed.
It's not really asking the state for more money.
Well, you're fully immersed, so take it away.
So I'm just gonna read it. We have one letter here for the, to Senator Tara and one to Representative Mira. I'll read it because it's kind of confusing, but. Dear Senator Tara, we are writing to ask your assistance. Unfortunately, it feels as though all the letters we write start the same way. Your support is so appreciated, and while every year is an uphill battle, we are glad to have you representing the Triton Regional School District. Over the past 2 months, several bills have been filed, including the governor's budget, H1 SD 101, the Promise Act, the governor's legislation on education reform, House 70, and an act relative to updating the foundation budget, HD 3195. All of these plans promise to reform education finance and bring relief to those districts in need. Unfortunately, not one of these bills would bring significant additional aid to our district. Our needs will go unrecognized and unmet by any current plan. As you know, foundation budget is calculated based on the number of pupils in the district. If enrollment increases, the foundation budget increases, and if enrollment decreases, the foundation budget decreases. For districts like Triton and many others here on the North Shore, with decreasing enrollment, costs do not decrease proportionately with the number of students lost. Student enrollment decline is spread across grades and across schools, which precludes us from eliminating a teacher or an aide or a bus route each year. We have to endure years of slow and steady decreases before we are able to trim our services and therefore our spending. The Chapter 70 gives a nod to this with the concept of hold harmless per pupil funding, but that is supposed to be a stopgap and not a permanent solution. At the same time, as our student population is decreasing, the percentage of students requiring special education services, interventions in reading and math, or mental health supports and services has risen dramatically. We have added special education teachers, interventionalists, clinical social workers, and other supports at almost the same rate we have lost classroom teachers. Each year brings increases in the cost of living and healthcare for staff, contractual costs for transportation and utilities, and increased maintenance on our district buildings. Minimum per pupil aid, which is set at $20 per pupil in the governor's budget, would cover approximately 8% of the estimated increase in out-of-district tuitions for fiscal year 20, or 9% of the cost of living adjustments required by union contracts, or 49% of the salary increases for staff achieving new degrees or certificates. The impact of $46,000 new dollars in the scheme of a $42.5 million budget is almost negligible. Again, not even coming close to recognizing our needs, let alone meeting them. Year after year, we are left with a huge gap, and year after year, these burdens have been absorbed through the steady series of cuts, along with significant increases to our towns, borne on the backs of our taxpayers. The districts with the highest level of benefit from recent bills absolutely need help, but so do many of the other districts in Massachusetts. Like Triton, there are many districts that would not receive any incremental aid compared to the previous 5 years. In fact, through some of these bills, these districts would likely see their overall state aid decrease. Reworking the formula with recognition of sparsity and the effects of geography beyond wages would be ideal. An alternative would be providing some form of substantial aid to these districts that recognizes that costs are continuing to rise well above any efficiencies resulting from decreasing student population. You have the opportunity to introduce or back initiatives that would introduce this type of aid. Please do so for our students, our staff, and our taxpayers. As in past years, we also hope that regional transportation and circuit breaker education reimbursement will be fully funded. Thank you again for your ongoing support. I know that our financial circumstances could have been even worse in past years if it hadn't been for your hard work, and I appreciate your continuing determination and persistence this year. Sincerely, the Newbury Board of Selectmen. So, this is a really big deal, because if the current legislation that is being discussed leaves Newbury completely out. We get $46,000 new dollars and an impact of a $42.5 million budget. So the good news is Bruce is highly aware of this, and so isn't Lenny, and so isn't the new Senator DeZoglio. Jim Kelcourse is working on this. And this is not unique to Triton, it's not unique to the North Shore. It affects cities and towns in the western part of the state, it affects the southern. And so I really hope that there's something that's gonna be, I think that they're gonna fix something. But we can't, I don't want Newbury, and the reason why I really wanted this to be signed by us is I don't want Newbury not to have a voice. Okay.
I move to sign the letter. Or sign both letters.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Administrators report. Okay. Old business, table from April 2nd, 2019, review and execution of annual town meeting warrant.
So we had Article 3 was under discussion, where I'd suggested, paying the chair more than the other members. And Alicia had wanted to wait until the full board was here, so I don't know.
I'm gonna reiterate what I said at the last meeting. I think the pay's fair. As chairman, I'm willing to make the time sacrifice. And I feel that when we're, out on the street as a sounding board for our community, we all take an equal share of the views.
You guys are busy when I'm not here, so I'd like to make a motion symbolically that we give that idea of a chair, raise for the chair to the police station general fund.
Second,
So,
so that would be donating
me,
1,000 years.
me voting that down.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of that. I mean, I go to a heck of a lot of meetings. And I think we're fairly paid.
Actually, fairly underpaid.
My husband
But
would
we
probably agree
appreciate
with
your
that.
thought.
Yeah, it's
Well,
very,
I mean, I just was looking at the other board and how they're paid and, chair of the assessor, each other chair receives more, so, maybe at some point when we have our buildings built and we're not.
Right point, wrong time.
yeah, but I do appreciate the sentiment in noticing that, and of course, taking over the chairmanship from Jeff,
Yeah.
it really is a step up in a time commitment, and I appreciate you recognizing that.
All right, so I move to strike the 8,500 for the chairman.
Second.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Right.
I move to approve Article 3
As amended?
as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anything else we want to discuss on this?
There should be the ambulance article,
On 11?
and I don't know if which other ones we didn't. Yeah, so Article 11, to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $1,094,495 or any other sum from the ambulance enterprise free cash account to purchase and equip a new ambulance or take any other action in relation thereto.
Okay, what I want to add is we're fortunate to have an ambulance enterprise that supports itself, which is very important when we venture towards that direction of a municipal fire department, the ambulance enterprise supporting itself. I felt like I could, but I was a little bit apprehensive, so very relieved to see that not only does it support itself, but it can also
Buy an ambulance.
buy a new ambulance, so,
Gee, can I ramble for 1 second?
absolutely.
I'd like to go on public record and let people know that I received a new knee from Steve Matheos, and it was a great knee. But what I didn't receive was the fact that the Oxycontins really made me sick. I ended up with 68/38 for blood pressure one night and went out in our ambulance. And I haven't seen our boys in action in a while, since when my mother was sick. And I have to say, not only was there a policeman there at a drop of a hat at 9/11, Jay was there, but our boys were highly proficient, highly trained. Everything was, it was actually pretty serious. I guess you can blow an organ at that low blood pressure rate, but hey, you could have been anywhere and you couldn't get better service than our boys provided for our town. And I got news for you. When your feet feel like lead and you're not seeing too good, it's good to look up and see Bobby Bishop and a couple of the rest of the guys. Trust me. So I'm all in favor.
Yeah, I'd also like to piggyback on that. A few weeks ago, I had to get up and leave a meeting because my father was very ill. The driveway was icy, the house is on a hill. He's 6'4", a strapping guy, and nothing about the situation was easy. It couldn't have been handled better by our people. I was proud of all of them. Tough situation to deal with, and absolutely nothing to complain about. I was very impressed and thankful. Like Jeff said, it's in a situation like that, when the pressure's on, you're a little nervous. It's good to see some people you know. So it was just good. So any other? Yes, Jen.
I'm hearing from some people in Byfield a concern about the fact that the fire station is not staffed adequately. Is that, where does the ambulance come from? Morgan Ave?
It's run out of Byfield primarily.
It is run out
There's
of
both.
Yeah,
There
there's
are
one
both.
of those.
Yeah, yeah.
So this ambulance would be one of 2 ambulances?
Three.
We
3
have
ambulances.
3 ambulances, but,
It's to replace one.
one's not gonna be the
And what's the status with the staffing over there at the Byfield Fire Station?
I'd have to defer to the chief.
Yeah, I'd have to defer to Doug Janver, and I expressed to him, you know, do you have any concerns? Is there anything I don't know you should be telling me? And what he has told me is, the town's very responsive. They're gonna be addressing their staffing differently going into the future, but it's a work in progress. And I just, basically what I asked of him, I like, do you have needs that aren't being heard, or is there anything I should know? And he expressed to me things haven't been better in years. You know, he said he can remember a time 10 years ago, before he was chief, sitting in the station, the phone rings around budget time, and the voice on the other end of the phone says, cut 30 grand. Then the phone hangs up, and they're sitting there looking at each other saying, how do we do that? And he said to me, I'm so glad those days are over.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've actually increased staffing levels and coverage in the last 2 years. So I think it's an inaccurate statement to say that Byfield is not.
So people in Byfield can feel comfortable that if they had an emergency, the fire or the ambulance could get there as quickly as around Old Newbury and Plum Island.
I believe so, and I've also been reassured of that by the fire chief.
Thank you.
And I think I can say that if for any reason, any of those things that you have talked about occur, that the redundancy of the other ambulance service and the fact that Morgan Ave can actually fill in, we're pretty lucky to have 2 fire stations in a town that's really pretty spread out. And Plum Island's a nightmare during a storm event anyway. So the boys, for what they get from us, are probably doing a pretty good job.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on Article 11? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was there any other article we didn't vote on last time? Okay.
Well, is there anything you'd like to cover, Jeff?
Nope. Thanks, Leon, thank you.
Yeah, so, approval of the annual town meeting, April 23rd, 2019 warrant. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, tonight I would like to have a discussion on the Upper Green and how to go about improvements. Young man Cole Alblo made a good and honest, or I should say earnest attempt to make some improvements to the green, and what he found to some degree didn't surprise me. It's very hard to reach a consensus on our public lands, what they should look like, what the species of plants should look like, if things should be moved or not. And as that process played out, I was disappointed to find that instead of getting closer to a consensus, I felt like as a town we were getting farther apart. And I felt badly for the young man as the good deed he tried to do became more and more complex. Also, we received a letter from Mike Hathaway, a gentleman I've known for a long time. Of course, we've both gotten older and busy, but Mike Hathaway, local guy, he's on Green Street Landscape and Design Company. He's also an arborist, and just a smart, good, likable guy. He sent us this message. Hello, Board of Selectmen. As a lifetime resident of the town of Newbury, as well as a small business owner in town for the past 23 years, I would like to present a gift to the town. As a Massachusetts certified arborist, as well as a landscape contractor, I'd like to provide and install 3 trees per year for the next 10 years. The trees will be planted within common areas throughout the town. In light of the initiative taken by Green ER's plan to improve the Upper Green and the need for improvement to this area, I'd like to begin planting at this location. Trees will be supplied at a size of 3-inch caliper. Species will be chosen based upon the conditions at the approved locations. Proposed locations will be staked out prior to planting. This will allow DigSafe and all involved parties to approve of prior to planting. The basis behind this offering is not to remove any existing mature trees. The intention is to begin to replace trees that have been lost in the years past. Maintaining diversity in the species of trees is important to supporting a healthy balance in the landscape. Maintaining a variation in maturity of trees is equally as important to maintain habitat within the landscape. As a board, please consider this gift and allow me to offer a token of appreciation to the town. Regards, Mike Hathaway, Green Street.
What a nice letter.
It is a nice letter. We also received a letter from the Seamuses, David and Molly Seamus. We're happy to read in the newspaper that the Board of Selectmen voted not to accept the current proposal from Green ER and that the organization has asked for guidance from the Board of Selectmen. Here are some suggestions for a smaller project. Repaint/repair flagpole, replace if necessary. Grind all the existing stumps, replant the same number of native trees. Fix the current path along the high road side of the pond by digging out the grass, uncovering current paving stones, and add more packed stone dust to the pathway. Possibly installing a device that will help remove the green algae from the pond, possibly a UV device of some sort. And also edge and replant the small gardens in front of the memorials. Some suggestions from David and Molly Seamus. I wanted to hold these two letters to read them before we had this discussion, because one thing that's been identified is everyone agrees some improvements should be made to the green. When we got to the point of digging, moving things started getting a little hairy, and also I don't feel comfortable with the Board of Selectmen just calling the shots on what happens on the green. So my thoughts are, do we consider forming a small committee, maybe a 5-member committee, to study immediate needs and report back to us, because we have some money to work with. Mike Hathaway, I know he means very well, and he's an intelligent, capable guy. I have all the faith in the world in Mike Hathaway. What I wouldn't want to see is for him to kind of disappear down the same wormhole where he's trying to make a generous gift and a consensus is difficult to form. Where similarly we moved to on the police station, a smaller construction committee made up solely of townspeople. Do we consider going in a similar direction?
Well, I think getting input and consensus is important. I don't entirely agree with you that the selectmen can't make certain decisions on the green. You know, if we think it's important to fix the retaining wall because it's falling down, I don't think we need to go to the voters to do that. You know, fixing the flagpole, if it's falling over, I think we can make some of those decisions without input. But I think it's a really good idea to get a committee together, because we saw how important it is to everyone to have some input. So I think forming a committee, you know, I had sort of jokingly mentioned the idea of having a big picnic out there in the summer, so people could be out there and talk about it and generate some consensus. But I think getting something from the community that feeds us some of the concerns is always a good idea.
I think what Damon said is true, but I think also what JR alluded to is pretty good thinking. I think it ought to be small committee, 3 to 5, end date, start date. And I think the idea of that is that we can't think of all the ideas. And the committee can be the clearinghouse for the town to be able to weigh in. It can also be a clearinghouse for them to do the research that we probably don't have time to do. I think it ought to be a streamlined committee. I think it ought to be well chosen. Maybe Timmy and James can sit ad hoc. And I think we ought to demand that there's results obtained.
Well, I think they need to be given specific direction. So they
Charge.
Yeah, they need to know exactly what is asked of them and how they know they've accomplished measurable outcomes.
But the problem right now is, as we found out, it's pretty hard to give anyone a charge on the upper green. There's gotta be a clearinghouse of just kind of gathering some information.
Well, that would be what we've given the instructions for them to do, but what about the lower green?
Let's tackle one green at a time. How's that sound?
Okay.
Most of the deficiencies noted definitely seem to be at the upper green.
And I mean, what happens at the upper green, not saying I have the solutions, but, you know, where it gathers water, that can be regraded almost locally. I mean, there's lots of things that can be done with grass seed, there can be lots of things that can be done with trying to get rid of the geese. I mean, there's a lot of ways to move forward.
And we're already getting, we already have that, Mr. Higgins, Jonathan Higgins is already doing work on the Upper Green Pond. Got his proof of concept going, so.
I mean, John's done a really good job. He's been a friend of mine for a long time. He's a sharp guy. And he would be someone to consult about what you would want to do to try to put in a permanent fixture or mechanism to clear the pond of algae such as aerated or some sort of UV filter.
Yeah, that's my point. I'd like to just get his opinion.
No,
'Cause he's been doing this for a while now.
It's been 3-4 years.
3 years.
You know, he's a sharp guy.
Well, I moved to form a 5-member committee to seek community input and make a recommendation to the board by the end of July.
Yeah, with a start and end date, and what Alicia said, probably with some sort of mission statement, what
Yeah.
craft by next meeting.
Yeah, and so I think if we approve that idea, we can ask for submissions
And we
and
want
then have a charge for them on the next meeting.
five residents and have the tree warden and the DPW sit like the chief did in the other committee. Yeah.
Mm.
Any other, and
What do you think?
Second, right?
Yes,
Now-
second.
before.
Good idea.
Should we hold off to wait for letters of interest until we form the formal charge?
I think we want them to get going, because we're gonna have, next week, 2 weeks from now, we have the annual town meeting, so we're not back meeting for another month. So I think
Spring's
Ideally-
important, we get out front of some stuff.
we can have them forming up even before we have a charge. We have a general idea what we want them to do, so we can get some letters of interest. I think then at the first meeting in May, we can
Give them the check.
select them and get them going. That's just my feel.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we'll be looking for letters of interest from the community to serve on this committee.
To the selectmen.
Correct. All right, good, so maybe a little progress there. We were stalled before.
Do we want to accept Mike Hathaway's gift?
Well, should we table it till we get a little farther? Do we wanna, I mean, I don't, that's the other thing about bringing this forward, like, I don't wanna lose the the generosity of Mike's offer. I don't wanna lose the generosity of,
Put him on the committee.
I don't know if
He may not be a committee person.
I think he'd be great on a committee.
There you go.
I think we can accept the gift, but not have him start planting right now and thank him for it.
I think we can thank him for the gift, thank him for his offer. Tell him that we're going to be forming a committee that will help him guide where we want to put these trees.
The only thing is, knowing Mike very well and knowing his credentials, between he and Tim, they're in the committee that's gonna be sharp enough, you know, to basically tell them where to plant the trees.
Oh, I agree,
But I think
but I think we
where
need to
that,
work
where
with
that
the
might flush itself out is the fact that before Mike really gets started, he should work in concert with Tim. I mean, he's not gonna be taking any trees down. Mike made a great statement. He actually called me a little ahead of time and asked me what I thought, and I said, write a letter, it sounds like a great thing. Mike's the kind of guy that sees benefits in trees that are handicapped a little bit, not just perfect, because they house wildlife, they house all kinds of things, because they have nooks and crannies. So he's not one of these purists that has to have a perfect tree, and that's pretty cool. So,
Well, the fact that he wants to, not take any trees down and start almost replanting,
filling in the gaps.
filling in the gaps,
Yeah.
I mean, that shows, you know, he's really in this for the long
And
haul,
it's also not limited just to the green, so
wherever the town needs it, right? On town property.
I think we,
good.
I think we can accept his gift and then give him the direction he needs as far as where to plant stuff.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I second it.
Motion to accept the gift.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright.
All right, thank you,
You're in
Mike.
for it now, Mike.
Yeah, and I also make a motion that we send them a letter thanking him, because this is a very generous.
Second.
That's a lot of work.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, excellent. Just, before I move on to citizens' concerns, does anyone see anything that I've missed? Was picked up on anything that I've missed?
I don't think so.
I have not marked approval of policy procedure manual for Central Street Fieldhouse.
We
We
did
did
that.
that earlier?
We did.
Okay, that's what I
Conditionally
thought.
approved.
Thank you.
Additionally,
Conditional.
how about the letter, do you want to go, the letter from,
We're gonna back to citizens' concerns and do the letters?
Yeah, I think so. And then I'll get into correspondence. I'll put, anyone who wants to say anything tonight can get out of here before we delve into correspondence. Citizens' concerns, anyone tonight? Mike?
6 years ago, when I ran for selectman, the media committee did a public access piece where they interviewed, Caleb interviewed 2 candidates. Wondering who we go to now with the media committee, so we could do it again. Just have it, no. They basically interviewed the 2 candidates and put it on public access.
Right.
So can we do that again? I don't know who to go to.
We haven't, we filled the position, correct?
So because it's really, it's a time issue, can we get that approved?
I guess I don't understand.
The media committee came to me and said, we would like to put a public access piece, and they basically interviewed Chuck and I separately. So I'm asking, can we do that again?
I guess I don't understand what you're asking me.
yeah, I don't think you need to ask the board that, you just need to contact the
Oh,
town.
who makes the decisions on the media committee? Is it you, or is it, no, you're nothing?
No, Sarah Brochure is the,
Who was making it before then, I mean, okay, so.
Nobody,
So I call, how do I get in touch with Sarah then?
The only interview I ever did that way separately was with the Council on Aging. They invited us in
Yeah.
one time,
We
to
did.
sit there and do that.
There's a piece online 6 years ago. Caleb did a separate piece on the 2 candidates.
I mean, I'm more than
Oh,
willing.
you're looking for like a piece for a candidate's coverage?
Right, for public access.
Oh, gotcha,
Okay, I'm
gotcha.
sorry, I'm thinking, I didn't know.
Susan, it'd be Susan, right?
Sarah is the person we hired, she's working in
Okay,
that office.
so,
Yeah.
for Sarah's contacts,
Yep.
you can contact the office, I
Just
don't,
contact.
she's new, I don't.
Okay, so who do I call?
Contact Alan.
Okay,
It's,
all right,
you know,
that's all, thank you very much.
Sorry, that was going right over my
That one,
head.
it's late night. By the way, you guys really did a nice job tonight about discussion of the issues, really.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations.
I have a small citizens, if that,
Okay.
actually not a citizen's concern, but I have a potential Eagle Scout come to me looking for projects. And we have basically 3 of them. One is out onto Plum Island. There is a mat that is out there, walkway that's completely covered. It needs to be unearthed, redone. And there is a walkway from the soccer field up to one of the dog walking islands. There is also a pathway to go from Triton to the soccer field that needs to be finished.
Okay,
And I'm in contact with Doug, I've asked him to approve any of those things. He said if it's okay with us, we'll go forward with giving one of those projects to the Eagle Scout.
and Doug would give him a little guidance,
Doug is more than happy to work with us and with the Eagle Scout to get it done.
okay?
You gotta let the scout pick which one he wants to do.
Basically, yes. We don't know what his skill level is, and we're gonna work with it that way, but initial approval, we'll go look at him, then I will come back and say, okay, this is what he's chosen. So if it's okay with you guys, I'll move forward with that.
I think it's a good idea. I'm a little concerned, the path that they put in from the soccer fields before the Boy Scouts did a path out there that wasn't fully in compliance. So I'm glad that you're talking to Doug. I know the rec committee is also looking at
Yes.
fixing that, so I'd want you to talk with them as well
Oh,
as you move
absolutely.
forward. And as long as it comes back before us and Doug's approved it, I think it's great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other citizens' concerns tonight?
Yep.
Marshall?
Good evening. I sent an email to the selectmen and to the planning board with regard to the foundation of the barn that we're renovating and restoring on Marsh Meadow Lane. I did some research on the guidelines from the Secretary of State, the Secretary of State for that particular project. All of the guidelines said if you're doing something below ground and whatever is above ground is still going to look basically the same as it did before, it's okay for them. I did talk to the head of the planning board. She said, looks fine. There is a time concern because we do have equipment on the site, so I wanted to come to you and say that the planning board agrees there's really no issue with that. Sam is going to ask you if it's okay, once we get some drawings to him, to approve us going ahead. So I just wanted to acquaint you with the planning board's approval, or they're stating it's a non-entity, it's not an issue, which is what I thought it was. And I'm going to, with your permission, contact Sam and say, from the planning board, it's not an issue. I think from the selectmen, also should not be an issue. We're within the letter and spirit of the guidelines of that particular codicil on the land.
Do you need that in the form of a motion?
I don't think so.
Yep.
I think it's a non-entity, and if it stays a non-entity and you say, Sam, go ahead,
Yep.
we don't have an issue with it. You don't have to go through a motion.
I'm gonna recuse myself anyway.
It's okay.
So basically, there's a stone foundation now.
Okay, there's a stone foundation now. What we found when we took the barn off, we found a lot of things, but what we found was it was neither level nor square.
Yeah.
Surprise,
Okay.
surprise.
And, well, it happens. And so to bring it back to level and square, there's some significant ledge in there. What we thought would make the most sense is to come up with basically a 2-foot thick wall. Come up then, that's gonna be below grade, then come up to the bottom of the sill of the structure, faced with stone. So that what you're gonna see above grade is stone. And then put the barn on that. It's gonna be a better solution long-term for the barn. It's gonna be very stable. And we're gonna put center pilings in anyway that are gonna be in concrete. So that was already approved and done. So it's all consistent with what we're trying to do to put this thing back together.
That makes the most sense because the foundation that's there has settled there for the last couple of 100 years.
Yeah.
Why move it? It's there to stay, just add a little bit to it, make it level.
Well,
Makes sense to
what
me.
we were gonna, it's gonna be more than adding to it. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pull it out, because it's not something we can add to and put on top of, it's not stable,
All right.
okay? Because it's already sunk. So now we have to dig it out. We're gonna start from the bottom up, get a good fitting. We'll get it a signed plan, an engineer plan.
So the
And then-
footings are gonna add a little more flotation, a little more
Yeah.
footprint. Yep.
And the end products, it's
The
similar
product is
appearance.
you're gonna see basically stone on the outside from, below grade up. That would be either stone or faced stone right up to the bottom of the building and then the building, as we had proposed. And I went back and checked to make sure that it's consistent with the treatment of the restoration of historic places in the hills. So,
Well, I don't know, work with Sam and keep us updated,
Yep.
I guess. Any other comments from the board?
Do you-
All for it.
do you think-
I've been out and visited the site and it's pretty impressive, the work we've done already.
Do you foresee any more issues, do you think, Marshall? I hope not.
I'll tell you what,
There's nothing
when
left.
when you're in the ground, you can see about that far. Okay, it's always in the ground that the problems occur. Once you get out of the ground, things are pretty easy, but when you're in the ground, it's It's hard to tell. So, but that's where we're going with this.
That's a great project.
Okay, thanks for the update.
Good luck.
No problem. Any other citizens' concerns tonight? Seeing none? We got a letter from Jonathan Higgins, the man who cleans the algae out of the pond at the Upper Green. Sorry, I'm bouncing between two agendas tonight that I have tabbed up. And he, let's see, last summer he removed 0.22 pounds of phosphorus from the pond, which doesn't sound like a lot, but phosphorus it's a powerful nutrient. Historically, it's been a little bit overused, and a little with phosphorus, a little bit goes a long way. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but it absolutely is. So good work by Jonathan Higgins. He presented us with a very lengthy and detailed correspondence that if anyone really wants to have a look at, they can contact the Board of Selectmen's office. But
Yeah.
otherwise, given the hour,
It might not be a bad thing for us just to coin a little note to John. Even though we allowed him to use our property to accomplish something for his business, I think it might be nice to just thank him for his expertise and diligence in keeping us up to date.
I think it's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
So moved.
Seconded.
all those in favor?
And just on that one, he took almost 18 pounds of algae out of the Upper Green pond after the water was removed, so his machine's working pretty well. He's able to refine it, so.
How much did he take off?
About 18 pounds.
And I mean, the cool thing is, through the wisdom of the Board of Selectmen and everyone that, you know, just the collaboration, what John's doing is going to go forward and help clean up a lot of other ponds.
Yeah.
Because if it's successful, there's other people that are gonna be using something too, they'll mock it, you know, so it could be pretty resounding.
Okay, we also received a letter from George Pasanka, Scoutmaster, Troop 15, Raleigh, Mass. There are 3 Eagle Scouts this year in Raleigh. He was asked if there's any interest. Anyone from the Newbury Board of Selectmen is very welcome at the events. We also received a letter from Triton Regional regarding the certification of stadium receipts. This is a letter from Michelle Cresta, School Business Administrator. Certification of stadium receipts for calendar year 2018. Rental revenue for stadium use for the period of January 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2018. Fiscal year 18 totals $4,395. And rental revenue for stadium use for the period of July 1st, 2018 to December 31st, 2018. Fiscal year 19 totals $10,037.50. So their receipts for the calendar year 2018 total $14,432.50, and those funds will be transferred into the stadium account for the sole purpose of funding capital stadium improvements per section 4.3 of the memorandum of understanding between Triton Regional School Committee and the towns of Newbury, Raleigh, and Salisbury. So it's good to see a little bit of revenue coming out of that new stadium for the school.
And they're saving it up for any capital.
To keep it up.
So they don't have to come back to us.
Which is very important. It's one thing to build something, it's another thing to take care of it.
That's right.
Before we move away from correspondence, we often send a letter of congratulations to the Eagle Scouts, so I would move that we.
Second.
I think we did.
Oh, we did that?
Same 3.
It was the same 3 as last time?
Yeah,
Okay,
we're invited to the presentation.
Good.
that's what that was, okay.
Good catch, so, review of meeting minutes. We have any, okay. Do we have any warrants tonight?
We do.
Motion to sign warrants?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone have any meeting updates?
Spent a lot of time on Scotland Road recently.
Any reason?
Oh, I don't know. Can you guess?
Oh,
I think there's a district communications subcommittee meeting coming up in April, I wanna say April 25th, and I believe it's in Salisbury. Anybody would like to join me?
That's just a DCC meeting, not a
Right.
subcommittee meeting.
Well, that's true, what did I say, subcommittee, it's the
It's
DCC, yeah. So anyone wants to join me? I think it's gonna be in Salisbury.
okay, any other meeting updates? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Have a good night, careful, it might be slippery.